Welcome to Orn Oth's Bedtime Stories. Tonight's story, The Winter Forest, written by Orn Oth the Dragon and read by Orn Oth the Dragon. One day, Orn Oth the little silver dragon waddled out of his cave in the mountain and looked out over the valley below to find that all of it was covered in snow. Seeing this, he decided to try sliding on his tummy all the way down the mountain. The little dragon jumped onto the slope of the mountain, tucking his tiny limbs, and the 12-inch long Orn Oth zipped down into the forest below, giggling as he went. Once he finally stopped, Orn Oth took a look around. Normally there were animals scurrying all around gathering food or looking for it, but today Orn Oth seemed to be all alone. "Where are all the creatures?" Orn Oth asked himself. His question went out into the woods, but no one answered. So Orn Oth waddled about searching for the hidden animals. He didn't worry about the birds, because they had all left. They told him at the end of the summer that they wanted to go somewhere warmer and wouldn't be back until the spring. However, the squirrels that were usually all over were completely absent. Seeing this, Orn Oth decided to snoop around the burrows in the area to see what was going on. As he did, he found a gopher that was sleeping deep in hibernation. Orn Oth took some time to examine the gopher to try to figure out what was going on. After a while, Orn Oth realized that the gopher was intending to sleep all winter long. "Silly gopher, chew will miss all the snow. Chew should come out and play," Orn Oth told the gopher, but it just kept sleeping. So Orn Oth huffed and left the gopher to sleep. Continuing to waddle through the forest, he found a herd of deer that were trying to find food. Some of them were digging in the snow, and others were stripping skin off the birch trees. Orn Oth knew to keep his distance. Deer eat mostly grass and bushes, but they also eat baby birds and other tiny creatures that get too close when they are hungry. Watching from a tree, Orn Oth soon realized why it was that he had not seen the deer when he had first come down the mountain. With the snow covering everything, the grass was not growing, so they quickly ran out of food and had to move on. Since the herd of deer was now moving around more than they did in the summer, they were not around when Orn Oth had first come down the mountain. Still, with all his searching, Orn Oth could not find most of the creatures he was used to seeing. There were no bugs at all. The birds had left. The fish were under a thick sheet of ice, and most of all the small animals were not showing themselves. So Orn Oth decided to visit his friend, the farmer, and see if he knew more about this strange winter shortage of animals. So he bounded through the deep snow to the edge of the woods. There he noticed that the snow changed. The border of the woods had piles of snow, so soft that he could swim through them. But beyond the forest, where the wind picked up, the snow became more like a sheet of thin ice. Orn Oth was light enough that he was able to walk on top of the snow easily. And even though it was not late in the afternoon, the sun had already begun to dip towards the horizon when Orn Oth reached the farm. Once there, he met the farmer and the fox who had decided to live on the farm and help the farmer out. They invited him to have dinner with them and even stay the night. Orn Oth thought that that would be a fun way to spend the evening, and he really liked the hot chocolate that the farmer made. As Orn Oth poked at the marshmallows in his hot chocolate, the farmer explained to Orn Oth that during the winter, many creatures leave, heading south for warmer weather and more food. This behavior is called migration. Not only do the birds do this, but also many other animals, including some insects. Other creatures sleep through winter or hibernate. Most bugs do this, or are in eggs waiting for the weather to warm up enough that they will have plenty of food. The bugs that do not hibernate or die off stay underground where it is warmer. This leaves only a few creatures to stay active and stick around in the winter. The farmer further explained that animals are not the only ones to make a change in the winter. Many trees drop their leaves in preparation for their own version of hibernating through the cold. Many other plants seem to die off, leaving behind seeds or bulbs that will grow when the weather turns warm again. And others have most of their actual body under the ground, and only their flowers or stalks die off, while the rest continues to grow a bit slower until the winter is over. Orn Oth listened to all of this with fascination. It was interesting to him that there could be so many answers to one question, and that so many creatures could have so many different ways of dealing with the same issue. This, however, is when the fox looked up at Orn Oth and asked how he dealt with the cold. Orn Oth explained that dragons are not often bothered by cold or hot temperatures, because they have a special organ in their bodies that produces magic for them and helps them to stay cool or warm as needed. It also allows them to do something special with their breath. For Orn Oth, this was the ability to breathe super cold air that could freeze things. Though because he was so small, it didn't do much more yet than just cool things off. "I have something magical to help me stay warm, too," the fox said, as she walked over and laid down by the fireplace. Orn Oth giggled. "Fireplace magic," he said. The fox nodded, and then went to sleep next to the fireplace. Orn Oth finished his hot chocolate, and then took a spot on the back of a couch to fall asleep. The next day, Orn Oth helped with some chores around the farm, staying as far away from the chicken coop as possible. Those birds had not gone south for the winter, much to Orn Oth's dismay, but he still had fun as he worked, and after he waddled back towards his cave, pointing out to himself some of the trees who were hibernating and some of the burrows where animals may be hiding for the winter. As he climbed up to his cave, Orn Oth came across a small deer that had gotten stuck under a log that had pinned it to the snow. Orn Oth waddled over to the deer to help it out. The deer started to panic, but Orn Oth patted it on the head and told it, "Don't worry, I am strong enough to be gentle. I won't hurt you." He then started digging the snow out in front of the deer, and once he had a way for the deer to wiggle out, he pushed up against the log to give the deer enough relief to get out from under the tree, and it bounded off to join its herd. Orn Oth continued up to his little cave, and as he watched the sunset, he smiled to himself, knowing that the forest would return to its normal busy self in the spring. The end.